Good morning, students. How are you all? I hope that all of you are very good. Okay, students, as you know, we are doing chapter 4 History, Rural Life, and Society. Until now, we have done different land revenue settlements introduced by British in India, right? Now, our next topic is commercialization of agriculture. It means to grow those crops which can be sold in market and earn huge profit, right? So, as you know that the British, they not only changed the existing land revenue system of the country, but they also changed the nature of production and items produced. How nature of production? Because earlier the village production was meant to fulfill the needs of people of that village. But now British, they started producing for needs for market. So nature is changed. Earlier people, they were growing the food crops. Now they are growing those crops which could be sold in market, which could be sell in market, right? So the objective for this to sell the goods in market and to earn more and more profits, right? So this was called commercialization of agriculture. Let's read from your book. By the mid 18th century, the East India Company had acquired territories in parts of South India, Bengal, Bihar, Odisha. How did they acquire, right? This you already have done in chapter 2nd, right? These areas were rich in agriculture and possessed a flourishing trade in handicrafts. This you have studied in class 7th. The company was interested in promoting a controlled commercialization of agriculture in order to provide commodities for the Western markets. The crops on which the company concentrated, those were indigo, cotton, raw silk, opium. Opium is a very costly and powerful drug which is called afim also. Pepper, tea, sugar, right? The British preferred these commercial crops for these reasons. These were more remunerative than food grains. It means that these were more profitable than the food grains because they were in huge demand in Western markets, right? And these could cater to a wider market as their price per kilogram or per cubic meter was also very high, right? So popular commercial crops in demand included opium and indigo. So what is opium? I already told you. Opium opium is a very costly and powerful drug, right? So British imported large quantities of tea from China, right? British imported tea from China, and in return British was paying in form of silver to China, because when we are importing something from country, any other country, we have to pay for it. So Britain was paying in form of silver, right? As Chinese, they did not want Western goods. So soon the British came up with a plan, with the idea of smuggling and selling opium in China so that Britain's money can be, you can say, that can be saved, right? So what is smuggling? Smuggling, you can say, take a thing or a person secretly into or out of a place which is not allowed by the law. That is called smuggling, right? After 1765, the company appointed contractors to produce opium in Bengal and fixed its price. So English East India Company hired, or you can say appointed contractors which were responsible to produce opium in Bengal, and then they will sell it to company and its price was fixed, right? So this price was set as low as possible so that it would yield a large profit to the state. The development of opium as a commercial crop fulfilled two objectives. It yielded huge, or you can say high revenue in India. So company was in profit. So it also created a channel for remittance of that income to London. Remittance, you can say money that is sent to somebody in order to pay for something. Now, because they have Britain was, or you can say company was, exporting opium to China. So Britain's money was saved as they were giving, paying silver to China for tea, right? So opium is obtained from a opium poppy. Poppy is a flower, right? So now let's talk about indigo. Indigo, which you say neil, which is used to, you can say it's a blue dye, which is used to color clothes and all, right? So indigo, a blue dye extracted from a tropical plant used to color textiles, clothes, right, was in demand in Britain, right? European indigo planters, they forced Indian peasants to cultivate the plant on their lands and deliver it to the factory at a fixed price. Now, there were another thing. Then now the farmers, they were forced that they have to grow indigo only, and then they have to sell indigo to the factory, right, at a very, you can say, low price. They were forced to grow, they were forced to grow indigo, and then they were forced to sell that indigo at a very low price, right? The condition of cultivators, farmers who were cultivating indigo, it worsened so much that they often refused to work on plantations. Cultivators, they did not want to work on plantations, but they were forced to work. The planters responded by burning their ripe crops and houses and capturing the cultivators and their cattle. You see how cruel they were, how oppressive those planters were. If any cultivator is refusing to work on plantations, you see what they were doing in return. They were burning their ripe crops, they were burning their houses, they were capturing them, you can say kidnapping them, right? Them and their cattle also. So they were doing these oppressive things to force them to work on plantations, right? The local administrative officials and police, they also supported the British planters against the cultivators. So cultivators, their condition was very, very bad, very, very cruel. Sorry, very, very bad, you can say. By these cruel methods, by these oppressive methods of British planters, the government enforced the rights of planters by passing an act in 1830, under which you see this act. 1830, an act was passed in which cultivators who broke indigo contracts, they were liable to persecution, right? What do you mean by persecution? You can say oppression. So they'll be oppressed by British, they could be teased by British in different forms, right? So simple, the cultivators, they were signing a contract with the planters, right? And they were forced to sign that contract, right? Then they were growing indigo. If they are refusing, there were different things done with them to force them, to oppress them. Then a law was also passed in 1830 that if the cultivators, they will be breaking the contract, then they could be teased or they could be oppressed by the government, right? The act, though repealed in 1835, you can say withdrawal in 1835, but continued to be in force in actual practice. The suffering of cultivators evoked general sympathy among all classes of Indians. Everybody was knowing that something wrong was happened with cultivators, but there was no organized protest for nearly half a century. Half a century means nearly 50 years. An organized movement against the oppression of planters was headed by Bishnu Charan Vishwas and Digambar Vishwas from a village of Chogacha in district of Nadia. One by one more villages joined them, and in course of 2 years the vow of no cultivation of indigo was taken by many cultivators in all districts. The people who started these revolts, their names are very, very much important, so please underline them. Bishnu Charan Biswas and Digambar Biswas, right? Now let's talk about sugar. So in 1830s, the indigo planters, they suffered because of a fall in prices and sales, right? So they then began to invest in production of sugar for the London markets, where import duties had been reduced and demand was rising. You would be knowing about in the further chapters how and why import duties were reduced, right? So about this you will be learning in the next chapters, what were the reasons why in Britain import duties were reduced, right? So large areas of land was given to European speculators here you can say investors, right? Investors or traders, those who want to invest in India, want to trade in India, who began setting up sugar plantations in eastern UP, Uttar Pradesh. The local peasants had long produced good for local consumption and sale to other parts of India. So they were producing good jaggery, right, for their self consumption and for the to sale in other parts of India. But now they were forced to produce a thickened sugarcane juice called roots for delivery to planters who processed it into sugar, right? So they were forced to produce thickened, very thick sugarcane juice called roots, and then sell it to planters, right? Deliver it to planters so that they process it into sugar. The peasants were then forced to deliver the crop to factory at a very low fixed price. So you see, the Indian peasants, they suffered a lot under commercialization of agriculture also, because commercial crops are grown for self profit, but their commercialization of agriculture, it was profitable to British only, not to Indian farmers, right? So they suffered a lot, their condition was very, very bad under British, right? So the next topic will be starting, we'll be doing tomorrow. And till now, if you have any problem, feel free to message me, feel free to ask me, feel free to, text me, right? So have a very nice day. God bless you all.